Well, hello. The day of this live show is, of course, New Year's Eve of 2021, December 31st. What a year in comics. Let's face it. What a year in comics, right? And all I want to say flat out, first thing is thank goodness that there are still some YouTube channels out there who are still all about the collecting and the comics and talking about the comics and the memories and things. The season collectors are out there, and thank goodness that there are some people out there who understand that speculation is just part of the hobby. Flipping is just part of the hobby. Trading used to be a big part of the hobby, and I know that still goes on and stuff out there. So as looking, I'm a little bit reactionary, man. My enthusiasm for a lot of comics nowadays, you know, my excitement level kind of wanes with the new comics over the last I'm going to say conservatively 5 to 7 years and stuff, right? They've definitely gone downhill. And one of the books that's a perfect metaphor for what I'm talking about, and also talking about a lot of what the YouTube comic book environment has become, is this Earth One Volume Two by Grant Morrison, Wonder Woman Earth One Volume Two, right? Probably the worst thing Grant Morrison has ever written. And it almost actually, even though this isn't the DC proper Wonder Woman, this version of Wonder Woman could almost ruin Wonder Woman for me. I'm a huge fan of Wonder Woman, especially the George Perez years. Like, I'm a big fan of many things. Okay. But it's a perfect metaphor because, like, yeah, the book, the story, the comic, it is crap, but much like a lot of comics today. But if you dig through, you can actually find something very cool. And it also has a little conversation in here that kind of matches how I feel about a lot of younger new collectors coming in today's environment. Because let's face it, man, if you are 50 and above, you got to experience the golden age of this hobby. I mean, let's just face it. It's time to think about the now and not so much romanticize the past, but the past. The past was the golden era. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not one of those things where my memories have really magnified and romanticized what comic books were in the past. It's a bit of a trade off. Comics have come very close to going mainstream. A comic book movie I still hold does not mean that comic books have become mainstream, but it's that sort of thing where they're there and people don't have a reaction like they used to. I talked about in the past of me walking into Scotty's Pharmacy on a Wednesday, comic book day, where they had a spinner rack. Jump off the bus. Little 12-year-old Timmy, little 12-year-old Howler runs off the bus, runs through a couple parking lots, runs in there, gets some comics. I'm all excited. I bought a bunch of comics probably for 60 cents a piece at the time. And I look up and there's this guy and his two worms and cronies. And they're like, oh, what is this? Comic books. And they took them from my hand and they ripped them. That's what I'm trying to say. Nowadays, probably not, But the passage I'm going to read to this to get to the point, because I got things to do today, is basically Wonder Woman has come to America wearing American colors, if you will, and she comes from Paradise Island, where they want to spread their peace and their ideology and their government and everything like that because man's world is evil. The misandry in this is horrible, and the entitlement kills me. Right? Here is a princess who comes from an island where their form of government is a monarchy. Her queen, her mother is the queen. Okay, and they decide that they know better than the rest of the world, and they're going to come and spread their message, right? And Princess Diana, the sweet little princess, is a little bit doubtful now because of what she's seen in man's world, but not just because it's men. Now the thing about it is that when you have a monarchy ruled by a queen come into a republic, democratic republic and stuff, right there off the bat, it's not a good idea to think that this is a mission worth going for. As a matter of fact, if you took Wonder Woman and put a gray iron mask on her and a green cloak, this is Dr. Doom coming at you with his iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove. You know what I mean? I'm like, and that's one of the things that sort of happened over the last decade. People seem to be in this thing, this mindset of a generation. Not all of them, but we know who we're talking about and stuff. Where we're wanting to blur boundaries and right and wrong and morals and stuff like that. And comic books is one of the few places where you can actually find things to be black and white. You know, okay, it's one of the few places where the shades of gray, um, the shades of gray are not that hard to distinguish. You know what I mean? So basically, she's having a conversation with her queen, a queen who was so entitled that for would be conservative, we're going to say 2,500 years, nothing's really changed. They're actually stagnant on their island, if you want to get real about it. And the queen is so entitled, and they worship their pagan gods and stuff, that she got to have a daughter when no other woman on the island gets to have motherhood. So, and just so you don't think that this is a guy stepping out of lines and stuff, I just had a conversation with my wife 2 nights ago about a lady she works with having a huge problem with fertility. And my wife looked at me and said, "You probably don't understand this conversation." I was able to look at her that I understand that fertility cuts to the bone of a woman. And she told me. So I've got my pass right there. I had a woman agree with me. Okay. So basically, let me just read this. All right. Um, and yet, Hippolyta, Queen Hippolyta, is looking at Wonder Woman. And yet, that look upon your face, I've never seen till now. Wonder Woman goes, "Perhaps. For every woman's life I save or change are millions more I'll never reach. Whole systems, both of thinking and of living, must overturned they be. Yet people here grow old and pass away and witness nothing of the change for which they fight. Each generation, brief, condemned to learn new the lessons of the one before. It might take decades, more perhaps 100 years of patient transformation." Queen Hippolyta looks at her. "Time that is not yours, my dear. The longer you sojourn so far from home where flows the fountain of our youth, the faster you must age. And you wish to learn, but sorrow and regret are tutors too that care." To break down how I'm interpreting that, I have reached an age, and I talked about thank goodness there's other people out there who are, getting close to 50, if not over 50, probably in their 40s, maybe high 30s. Who knows? I'm not the expert here on this, but I just go with what I've seen. But basically, we're reaching that point where I'm seeing all sorts of bad mistakes when it comes to comic book collecting and people oversharing online and stuff. And it's kind of painful to watch. You know what I mean? But they got to learn their own way, because regret and sorrow are their own tutors, and they're not going to listen to you. Queen Hippolyta, but what they're not saying here is that the longer she is away from Paradise Island from their monarchy in a democratic republic where women get to choose their leaders also, because women were able to make strides without the help of the entitled monarchy of Paradise Island here. You know, she's afraid that she's going to get away from the brainwashing. She's going to break away from the cult, and she's going to learn as much from the world, instead of pushing what they want, what the Amazons in this want. Diana might end up doing what she needs to do, is acclimate herself to the real world. Okay. Regret and sorrow are also teaching Diana uh, their own lessons of the real world. And she's already having doubt on what she's going to be able to do. This is why, if you've watched this channel, I'm always like, I used to read history a lot, much more than I did now. The documentaries, before they stopped showing historical documentaries and started showing, history of like aliens may have come here and where's Bigfoot. So, talk about lowering the bar across the board with a lot of things that I've enjoyed over the years and stuff, right? But that's kind of where we're at with this. You can't talk to them, and they all seem to come from like a bit of a cult. And also, you've got the youth, you got to let them find their way. There's an evolution with the collecting where you've got to make the mistakes. Unfortunately, with what I'm getting at, what I'm seeing is the speculation channels on YouTube. Now, I'm not going to be sitting here and saying that we should not have speculation channels. I don't really so much want to condemn what it looks like they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we love comics. We want to show you comics every week, the top 10, what you need to go out and find and invest in. Because there's some channels that do that. Now, I'm going to throw out a channel called Etta Nick, ETA Nick. He just did one a few days ago that I thought was spectacular, and I hated that I was at work and couldn't continue watching the entire video. But this guy, no, if ever comes a day that I'm going to get rid of all this, I'm going straight to him. Okay. He sat there and started out his video with talking about watching the stock market, something he said over the years. You can watch the rise and fall and predict some speculation with your collection by watching the stock market. And then he whipped out, and I'm also going to talk to you about an Italian mathematician from like the 17th century. And I'm like, oh, this is so good. So I'm going to be going back and watching that, right? So yeah, there's great people out there. Don't get me wrong. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. They're good. But then you've got the guys. There's like about 5 of them. And if you're involved in Instagram in any sort of way and not living under a rock with some of that stuff, I think there's some bigger speculation channels that have really got an ego and has gone to their head. And there's a veil that you need to lift up and look behind and realize they're selling you something, which is an app. Okay. And the app is supposed to show you what the key comics are when you're out in the wild, if you get out in the wild, or if you're sitting at home and you're playing around online and you want to get those deals and you want to keep up with what the hot books are now. And the term FOMO has come up, FOMO, fear of missing out, that sort of thing, right? All this has actually been part of comic book collecting forever, but they're putting on a show like a cheap car salesman. And I'm seeing a lot of this carry over into the real world. That's where this video is coming from, because unless you're really in that bubble of depending on almost all of your comic book information coming from online, you're going to be missing out. The real FOMO is happening. That's the ironic thing. Now, things have been picking up. If you watch my videos, have me on Instagram, you see that I'm getting out to little comic book conventions. I'm going to a comic book shop. There's none around me now. The closest one about an hour and 15 minutes away. But I'm kind of talking. When I get out there, I sort of throw a few things out. One comic book shop owner I've known since like since I was 16, 1989, at least 88, 89. Right. Talked to a few of them and I'm like, yeah, did you hear about the preview issue of, that's supposed to be the first appearance of Miles Morales Spider-Man? He was like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Have you seen these books come up that are supposed to be worth a lot of money now? They're spec books, ridiculous books like West Coast Avengers number 21, where Steve Englehart actually just took Moon Knight, stuck him in the Avengers, and treated him like Batman. You know, ridiculous stuff. Now, there are books that go up in value, but a lot of what they're doing over the past year, these things don't retain value. And this is where the skills that you need to develop as a comic book collector that happen just with enjoying the hobby and doing it for years and interacting with people and going places. I don't feel like people are developing those. And I really feel bad for them. I really do, because you have at their hands comic book channels over the years who have shown how to get comic books on the cheap, how to be aware, how to get your skills. And just to let you know about the skills, what I'm talking about, I'm going to let everybody take a little guess. I've had 2 copies of this book. I had to buy another one. Now let's pretend this is Hulk 181. This is actually the first appearance of Fire Lord here, who is a Herald of Galactus, if you will, right? But I got this book and I was all excited, man. As a kid, I was huge into the Heralds of Galactus and Galactus. I thought he was cool. It's because I had a Marvel Treasury edition with Galactus there and got to see Gabriel the Airwalker. And then I really sort of started paying attention to all this stuff and loved it, right? But I had to get another one. This is the first appearance. It's not graded, of course, you know, I'm not going to put that down or anything like that. I paid a decent price for it, but then I had to get another one because the other one was worthless. Can anybody guess why? And I'm going to walk you towards why. These come from the skills. Because first of all, this is a Bronze Age book, and any Bronze Age book that you get and decide you want to buy, and let's pretend this is Hulk 181. This will also explain another reason why Hulk 81 is worth so much money, besides the fact that it's just the official first appearance of Wolverine, not counting the cameo in the issue before. But it's a Bronze Age books. There's some things you got to look for. Number one, Silver Age, early Bronze Age books were all thrown out by a bunch of moms when their kids got either joined the service or were drafted. And there was a thing about moms cleaning house, and anybody that has spent any time with mothers, I don't know how they are today, they still do it. I had to protect my son from his wife when I was married to her. they'll throw everything away. So that's one reason people want to recapture that childhood, and there's less of the books because they were actually thrown away. You can look up the print runs, but nobody knows how many there really are. Well, the other reason why you need to look at these books, and one of the reasons why Hulk 81 it adds to why it's worth so much money, is because Marvel had a thing going on in the 70s where you could actually get a booklet. And this was the thing, man. You used to be able to get stamps when you went to the grocery store. They were green stamps, and you could lick them, put them in a book. When you filled up the book, you got credit for more groceries. Okay. Well, Marvel did the same thing to where you can get a booklet, and in each of their comics, you could cut out this Marvel value stamp. So the first time that I got this, with my regret and sorrow showing me to increase my skills, if you will, to what to look out for. My first one, I got on a great deal, and I got home and I'm flipping through it and I'm looking through it, and it's cut out. Or you could have, and then I've had books. I just put it up, but uh, I have a G.I. Joe book that I love, that a special and annual that Mike Golden did when I was a kid. And I keep buying the thing, but I forget to check it because in the back of it, you can fill out a form to get a subscription or something, and people will cut them out and send them out. So Bronze Age books and stuff, you need to open them up, check for the Marvel stamp, see if there's writing inside of it, and find what you're happy to deal with. That's the skills on speculating. Not just is it why is it a key book, but also the condition. Did it get through? Is it from that era where books were thrown out? Do they have the Marvel stamps? Do people get in there? Things like that you just learn over time. Okay. And that's kind of what's missing. Now, the thing about this app is there's people that apparently do enjoying it, but over the last month, and this is not that big of a deal, but I spent a little bit of time yesterday, had last night when I had insomnia, kind of checking it out. Before I do a video, I like to check out to see what I'm talking about. I'll look up other videos and stuff. I'll pipe in some words. I'll look at certain channels. I'll try to check them out. And there's been like this little panic going through, or it's manufactured drama to get hits where they're like, oh my God, all these spec books, they're losing value from 7 to 74%. These are the actual numbers people have been coming up with, trying to sound more credible, I guess. And the thing about it is that another thing about doing comics over the years, doing this hobby and stuff, is that comic books values always drop in the winter, especially in December. School starts back up in the fall, weather gets really bad, and then people need to buy presents, or they don't have that much spending money, or they're saving money for electric bills. And then in the summer, when the kids used to get out of school, that's when you got your annuals and your specials, because the kids were out of school, they needed more to do, and that's why we have annuals and specials. You know what I mean? This is just common sense to me, and people who have done this for a while, and for people who listen, who have picked up on it, it's not that important. But when you start hearing people, there's people who are doing things like, we have cold keys now. I know we had these comic books on our channel, and I know the TV show has come and gone, and the movie is over with, and the movie flopped, and these are cold keys, but you still need to listen to us. We're going to tell you what those cold keys are, so maybe you can get them on the cheap now. They're panicking. They're panicking because they have an app to sell. It's not really about the comics. I think if you're really going to be buying an app and you're going to be listening to people, I really think there ought to be a little bit more clarity, honesty, and a little bit being forward, come front and forward and talk about that, right? Nothing wrong with it. Now, the thing about getting the app and them having to make the app worth your money, they have to constantly update it. That's where we get all these extra ridiculous books that are supposed to be keys. Part of it, and it's a tale. A tell, if you know poker, is where you can look at somebody and you can kind of tell they don't have a good hand. They might have a little habit or something. But a tell in comic books is where you act like you're the first one. They come off like they've done comic books their whole life. Oh, I grew up in a comic book shop. I've been around comics all my life. And then all of a sudden they do a video on the Market Jewelers like they just discovered it. Market jewelers in comics and stuff, right? Those have been around forever. And just to kind of show you that no matter how old you get and you don't know, you never know everything. That's what's great about this hobby. It's at your speed, your level, your interest. If you just want to read the comics, you can just read the comics. If you want to know about comic book history and you go out there and you meet people and talk about things, you always still learn things. Okay. So I just learned exactly where the Market Jeweler books came from a couple months ago. And I think it was Charlton 66 who told me. I think I might be wrong, but they were the comic books that were on in PXs on military forts in their stores. And the market jewelers were there for the military guys to buy their rings and stuff, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I never put that together, even though I was in the military and I recognized some of those rings from the market jewelers. I came at it backwards. But yeah, so and that's what I'm trying to say. They act like they're doing things where they're acting like people. You can tell they don't know what they're talking about because it's new to them, but they try to come off like they do know it. That's a huge tell sign that you need to stay away from those people for real, depending on what your interest is. Okay, um, come on now. But they get this app, and to keep updating the app and stuff, they sort of support each other. There's two or three of them that kind of seem to kind of rotate, eclipse around with each other, man. I talked to some people who went to the New York Comic Con earlier in the year. I think it was this year. And they talked about seeing like, who was it? Comic Tom, maybe Jim Mint Collectibles. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be mentioning the name since I'm not 100% sure who the two people were, but I'm pretty sure that's who they said. And they were like, oh, wow, there's Comic Tom. And he just like snubbed everybody, went by him and made a beeline to Jim Mint Collectibles. And they seem to have had their channels go to their head. It's the perception, allegedly. And I'm just going to go ahead and sit here and tell you their channels are not huge. Last night, to fall asleep from my insomnia, I watched a channel where it was nothing but rain. They do rain videos, 145 million hits. You can type in Barbie or dolls on your YouTube line here, and you turn around and it's got 5 million hits. Those are big channels. Okay. Things like that, right? So they get the app and they have to constantly update it. They have to really magnify some of these books, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. They have to really kind of hope to dig. And when they're wrong, they're wrong. They won't admit it because then they would have to say that there's something wrong with their app. Their app has false information. But wouldn't it be amazing if you had something where professionals have documented it, where collectors and people who've spent their life collecting and people who have studied this and know people in the industry, and if they could just get together and make something where it's in print and it never changes and you can actually just buy it every couple years and know exactly what you want, know what those key issues are because they don't change. They're physical and stuff, right? Oh, could it be the comic book Overstreet guide? Isn't that amazing? Isn't this amazing? I think, what are we going on? 50 years of the comic book overprice guide, right? You can get these, and if you play around with them and look at them and read them, and it's not work, just gaze through them. They already tell you where the first appearances are, and the key comics are, in the years these comics came out, and what was going on with them. So let me read a little excerpt in one of these. Okay, this kind of lets you know what this is all about here, right? I've actually marked some stuff. Who knew that I would end the year with reading? Okay, story time, right? About this book. We are in the 35th edition of Overstreet here, right? Welcome to the 35th edition, told you, of the most comprehensive reference work available on the history and pricing of the American comic books. The official Overstreet comic book price guide is respected and used by dealers and collectors throughout the world as their guide to American and North American comics. This is not a position we have earned easily or taken lightly. In other words, they don't feel like they're entitled to that because they have a YouTube channel. Okay, they're not entitled to that because they have an app to set. They've earned it. Documenting the rich avenue of American pop culture history is clearly an organic, ongoing process. Ongoing and organic. It takes time. The market does not, there's only so many comic books coming out a year. I bought 22 to 25 new comic books this year, but if you follow my channel, my Instagram, I feel like I'm plugging that, but I'm just saying I'm walking the walk and not just talking the talk. But if you see the back issues I get and stuff, the market does not move fast enough to update an app every week. There's not a key comic coming out constantly. Anyway, but organic and ongoing process, right? Just as we strive to record everything from major and minor trends, and this speculation thing going on is a minor trend, to individual items, so do our advisors and regular readers. Such enthusiasts are the driving force behind the growth of this book. Whether supplying photos of rare comics or simply asking the questions that gets us looking in the right direction, it is our fellow hobbyist professionals who are our primary inspiration. In other words, dudes, we're all in this together. Everybody makes this book. Everybody supports this hobby. And it's not just some people who are wanting to be influencers and sell an app that is driving the market and making the decisions. If anything, they are a minor part of what makes this hobby what it is. About values. Values for items pictured in this book are based on the author's experience, consultations with a network of advisors, including comic collectors specializing in various categories, and actual prices realized for specific items sold through private sales, auctions, sales catalogs, mail, telephone, and internet bid auctions. The values offered in this book are approximations influenced by many factors, including condition, rarity, demand, and they should serve only as guidelines presenting an average range. So that's why I'm not so much demonizing speculations and speculators as part of the hobby. But I'm just saying there's people being dishonest about it and are manipulating things in a way that is not honest, and people are losing money. Real life, with people who have been playing around with this stuff and everything like that, the last 2 months, I could not count on my two hands the people who have woke up and realized how much money they've wasted. Okay, so they're never going to get that money back, right? But that's part of that's just part of life and the sorrows. Well, how did one woman put it just a minute ago? That's the part of making mistakes and the sorrow teaching us more lessons. You know, that's part of it. You grow by making mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. Okay, so that's what cracks me up. Now, I'm going to show a video here in a minute because the speculation market has influenced comic books online to where comics are ridiculously priced. And not only ridiculously priced, but it's ridiculous books that people are demanding that are just not going to hold their value. And I hold they are not worth that much now. It's just in the moment. Okay. And then I'm going to do comments here, man. So if you guys want to indulge me, I'm going to show you why I feel like not only have a majority of comics from the big two, not the majority for people popping in. I had a metaphor showing that there's still great comics out there. You just got to dig harder now. Okay. But this is what it's like. I'm sort of on the outside of it between working, between traveling for work, between moving into this house a couple months ago and life and great things and hardship things and drama, all that stuff. I've sort of, haven't been that active here on YouTube. I have talked to people. I have been on other people's channels. I've played around. I haven't disappeared from it. And but I've spent more time talking comics and being around comics and with people in the real world off of the virtual world and stuff that I sort of am able to step outside and kind of look down around what people are doing. And then checking out the eBay prices and stuff. Dude, we got a guy that is 65 years old and has started working where I'm at. And he is a huge fan of Immortal Hulk. He has first appearance of Punisher. I got a guy to talk comic books with at work every now and then. I might see him once or twice a week. He's the one that kind of told me that, like, oh man, I might be selling all my Immortal Hulks. They're going for $700. I came home that night and looked it up and did the thing where I can see auctions that have ended, and they're going for more like 300 at the time that I was doing this. One, I think mine went for 500, and that's what I'm kind of talking about, right? So I'm going to indulge me. I'm going to share a video, and hopefully we can do this together. All right. And I'm going to show a video of what it looks like to me when people are bidding on these ridiculous comics. All right. And this is actually what it looks like. I'm not exaggerating. So this is Price is Right, of course. And that's what it reminds me of. And anybody, and this is what I'm using sort of like as a loose metaphor for what I've seen in comics. If you watch Price is Right, like these people do that get on the show, they know what the showcase is. They know how to play the game. They know the price ranges, that a showcase would be in.
Bid or pass, Gay?
I'm gonna pass.
You will pass to Jose.
And now this guy.
Bid, Jose, on
wait till you see
showcase.
this. He looks around. He's clueless. He's looking for people to tell him what to do. He doesn't know what to do.
Showcase, you mean everything?
Everything.
He means everything in the showcase. He's never watched this show before. If this was a comic book guy right now, he has never collected a comic.
Jose, what do you bid?
I'll bid $250,000.
$250?
$250.
$250,000. He has bid $250,000 on a showcase. Everybody that has ever watched this show or anything knows this is wrong, which is a lot of how I feel about the prices of comics influenced by our speculators.
250,000.
Listen to Bob. Listen to Bob.
Think about that for a moment now.
Woo!
And he's proud of himself with that woo. Now, I don't know if people get a high from throwing away their money, but I'm not meaning this mean spirited, but this is what it's like when I watch people pay for comics online and eBay and stuff right now, and they do it, at a ridiculous price. It's not what it's worth. Plenty of resources, plenty of other YouTube channels with people knowing what they're talking about, price guides out there, comic book realm out there. And they're spending ridiculous money that they'll never get back on some of these comics. And then what do? Woo! It's a rush. It's a rush for them. Oh my God, that goes back to this little passage I read in here. I'm like, what teaches you about comics and building your other skills for collecting comics and knowing how to spend your money wisely and all this stuff? Oh my God. Yeah. Oh geez. Cracks me up. Oh, I'll do some stuff in a minute, man. I'll go through some comments, see who's here and stuff. But I think I got a lot of that on my chest. Yeah, that is regret and sorrow are your great tutors. Regret and sorrow. You get that big rush. Woo! By the way, I think the showcase was like $120,000. So he was only off by like $130,000, price of a cheap house nowadays. Oh my God. At least in my area. So, just so that, and I'm going to put out there, I'm going to say it again. I have learned lessons through regret and sorrow and being in the same places where I found out I overpaid for things and stuff over the years. It's part of the hobby. It's part of growing up. And these lessons they function elsewhere in real life about dealing. That's why the Howler Hustle, it became a name and a thing on this channel for a while, man. But so a lot of what I've seen over this past year, the big trend is like I said, it's like comics. A lot of comics are a parody of comics. It's like a lot of the YouTube stuff. Not all of it. Like I said, thank God, not all of it. There's still plenty of good YouTubers out there who are in it for the hobby and the comics. They know about it. They can read the comics and talk about them. That's not all out there, but there is a little bubble out there. A little bubble up there who are a little bit of the parody of what people thought comic book collectors used to be. So let's see who's out here. And great, good grief, man. I've just been talking away. Comic collector is out there. John is out there. What's up, guys? Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Eric. What's up? All right, Rob Ripa is there. Man, me and Rob go way back here. We go way back here. Wednesday Cereals popped up. Oh my goodness, that's a name from the play. The ETA Nick is indeed great. JLS Comics, they've really become a cult of personality. Yeah, and critical thinking quickly became a lost art. Okay, yeah, that's a whole other topic, man. I'll try not to go off on, but yes, you are right. Wasn't there tape on that bag? Because tape is actually bad for comics. I know you're being humorous. Yeah. Hey everyone, it's Silver Age Dave. That's a new name, I believe. JLS tax returns play a part in people getting that. Some keys lose money because the character loses relevance as well. Absolutely. Now, this is what I'm talking about. I cannot cover every skill, every reason for every comic. But as you do this over the years, you pick up things that influence what could influence the price of a book because it's done it before somewhere else. You've seen it, you've experienced it. I mean, we talk about sorrow and regret being great teachers, but also as experience. Shutting your mouth and listening sometimes is the best thing you can do. Silver Age Dave is on this here. I've always drawn to true rare books, errors, recalls, and unique books. Right there is a man who has collected comics for a while. This is all I needed to read. William Bird, I'm well way past caring about picking up back issues unless it's something not available in trades, and what isn't available in trades isn't usually overpriced speculation. Absolutely. I watched, I mean, I don't know how long, William, I can't recall if we ever talked about how long you've been collecting comics, but I actually saw the rise of the trade. And I would love to be able to go back to like 1990, 89, 90, and have those conversations again, predicting about trades and wondering what this is all about. Comic book rain. Maybe I'll get big views that way. There we go. Overstreet 8, the first appearance of Wolverine in 181. Before that, it was unclear. Okay, so if I'm following this comment right, it was Overstreet that is called it that Wolverine 181 was the first appearance, and then before that, people were wondering. Gotcha. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You're always learning with this hobby. But the app will tell you there's 10 new keys every week. Isn't that amazing? 10 new keys, man. You're going to be a millionaire. But if this was true, I don't want somebody to take a clip out of this. But if this was true, man, we're all set. We're all set. In about 5 years, we're all going to be with cars, boats, and mansions. Yep. It's a winning formula for getting views on videos. And that's the thing here, right? If you're doing YouTube, there's people who come on YouTube and they want the views and stuff, right? I've reached a point over the years, and Sleepy, you've been around a long time. You probably, I would definitely listen to what you have to say. That's not, so I'm just because I'm reading the comment and looking at the camera, it's not one-sided, but there are people whose goal is to get views on YouTube. Good for them. I mean, that's cool. That's what they want. It's just that the people that I'm talking about and stuff, man, it is so deceiving. It's deceiving. That's my problem with it. It's one thing to get a lot of views and stuff. I guess it's whatever you can do to look in the mirror. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and be all right? Can you sleep at night? Live auctions can make people make terrible decisions. I've gone to live auctions. I have walked away with, and I'm talking not just a comic book auction, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. The adrenaline gets going, and that's where you get that woo, like Jose had. Woo, there you go, man. All right. Comic Crats here. All right, man. All right. What's going on? Gorvidal. Happy New Year. Hello, everyone. All right. Gorvidal is here. All right. Everybody's here. Here we go. And William Bird, 40 years collecting. The Fireside books were my first trades. That's fantastic, right? So, I love being able to look back and see things that I got when I was like 9 and 10 years old. When I was getting a little bit more freedom and can make it and stuff and things that are around here. But basically, I think I've said what I've had to say. Happy New Year. Of course, now it is officially a Howler Mouse live show. People are coming in at the end. But everybody, have a Happy New Year. Great to see you. We got an OG comic book YouTuber popping up at the end. Great to see you. Happy New Year to you. And maybe we'll make it a thing in 2022 that every time we win something very cool, we do the Ric Flair woo. We got to do the slaps and woo, do it all there, right? So everybody have a Happy New Year. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for playing around. Thanks for listening to me. Everybody be excellent for each other. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff that everybody plugs. And everybody check out everybody that's in this chat. Turn on your chat if you're watching this on the rewind, and click on some of these people and go check them out. All right. Happy New Year.